Hello and welcome to this video and to August book review. Yeah, another month gone, another month of reading where I have read 4 books, and they're actually 4 full-length books in the month, so it's basically 1 a week, which is what I'm trying to aim for, although these books behind me are now getting chunkier. So is that gonna cope, because most of these are 350 or slightly below. But first off, I wanted to share some big news, a little plug if you want, because my brother has a book out. So this is Death of a Dream-Pedlar, although the front cover doesn't look like this anymore because he's tinkered with it a little bit further, and I think I'm one of the few that has this cover. But this is by my brother, Adam Stevenson, and I'm very proud to actually have a physical copy of one of my brother's books. So I have read a version of this, although I think it's changed considerably, in I think it was 2013, and he'd been writing it for years before that, so that's how long he's been not necessarily working on this book, but having this book, trying to get it published in the traditional fashion. But it's available on Amazon now, so if you're interested I'll put the link below. I thought I'd read the back for you, and then we move on to the books that I actually read this month. So, Death of a Dream-Pedlar, you will see this eventually in a book review when I actually read it. It'll be very biased, so take it out what you want. But this says, most of the world are pleased when James Drummond dies. After all, he was responsible for setting up the Dream Instantation Company, I don't know if I've said that right, sorry Adam, who claimed they could make all dreams come true for a fee, but ended up collapsing and taking much of society with it. Eve Lewis is not most people. She's not convinced that James Drummond was the villain he's been made out to be, and that the downfall of the Dream Instantation Company was more complicated than most people realise. As she hunts down the mystery, she meets hermits, arsonists, activists and tramps, little realising that she may be the key to the mystery herself. A mystery, a lark, a look at the nature of dreams, and a celebration of the triumph over suicidal ideation. Death of a Dream-Pedlar is a lively exploration into a curious world with an unforgettable heroine. I hope I haven't butchered that, Adam. Sorry if I have. I'm not very good at reading aloud. But if you're into sort of a comedic mystery with a strong narrative, please go and check out the link that'll be in the description below. And that's my plug for my brother's book, so go buy, go buy. The first book that I actually read in August though was Cribsheet by Emily Oster. This is a non-fiction. It says it's a data-driven guide to better, more relaxed parenting from birth to preschool. Now, I read her one about pregnancy called Expecting Better, and if I can remember what month I read that in, I'll link it up here, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. Emily Oster really irritated me throughout that book, and it angered me. So I've been putting this off, but then I kept seeing it on my shelf and kept getting frustrated and annoyed that it was still there, so I was like, I'm just going to read it, I'm just going to get it off my TBR, and then I don't have to think about it anymore. And actually it was better than I thought it was going to be, but I still don't really see the point, and I feel bad because both these books were a gift, and I'm very grateful to have them. I just did not get on with Emily Oster and this style. I don't think I'm really the target audience for it, because as I say, I sort of didn't see the point of this because it felt like there was not really any research to what she was trying to say. So we're looking at things like vaccines, sleep, where to send your child, all of that kind of thing, which she's American, so it always had a US skew to it, which as a British parent, not always helpful. But I didn't always feel like there was actually research or decent research to back anything up, and ultimately everything was do whatever you think's best, and I didn't need to read a whole book to be told do whatever you think's best. Yeah, okay, it's trying to say use your better judgment, use what you think's best for your family, and all of that kind of stuff. But you can't say it's a data-driven guide to better parenting if there's barely any data on the stuff that you're actually trying to share with people. And again with the pregnancy one, although it didn't annoy me quite as much in this because maybe it's not quite as divisive, some of the stuff which she was saying, but Emily Oster obviously cherry picks the data that fits the agenda that she has. Which, why wouldn't you? You're the one writing the book, you're the one with your own bias and all of that kind of stuff. But she tries to go into this saying that, you know, I'm trying to do this without bias and I'll let you know when I've got a bias. But I just think she selects and interprets the data to suit herself. So I'm not a big fan of this author. Like, the books themselves are pretty easy to read and easy to digest. I just don't really see the point in this one, and as I said, the pregnancy one angered me. So me personally, I wouldn't recommend them to people expecting, but I know lots of people really like this book and like this author. So as I said, I just don't think I'm the correct audience. So that is Cribsheet by Emily Oster. Then I wanted something easy and fluffy to read, and you know, it's summer, so something a bit light-hearted. So I went into A Sweetness by Jayci. This is a romance novel. We're following Audrey and Landon. Audrey runs a bakery in a small town in California, I believe. And Landon is a food critic. He's on his way to another restaurant and his car breaks down, so he ends up in this little place. He has to have an article written, so goes to this bakery, ends up with the wrong order, ends up with a cake, like this monstrous cake meant for like some 6-year-old girl's party, and writes a bad review. But alongside that, he also ends up having a one-night stand with Audrey, and then feels really guilty because he basically ruins her business. So it's how they work together to try and build up her reputation again, and obviously there's a romance and things in that. It was enjoyable, I quite liked it. I liked Jayci's writing. There's lots of description of food, obviously, because it's bakery and they also run part of a cooking show, and I really liked that, and it did make me feel kind of hungry and kind of want to bake as well. So I liked that part of it. There's a part towards the end around the third act conflict which I didn't like. I would have preferred that they didn't choose that storyline, but it worked to some extent for this book. Audrey and Landon have some good sexual tension, although I have read reviews where people disagree, but I thought they did, and I could believe them as a couple. So yeah, I would be interested in reading the others in the series. I heard that they do get better. Certainly the third one is supposed to be like really good, so I would be keen to give them a go because it was an easy, enjoyable romance that served the need that I had at the time for this one. So that was A Sweetness by Jayci. If you've been watching these videos for the last few months, you'll know that I'm working my way through a series, and that is the Selection series by Kiera Cass. So this month I read The One. This is the first of the books that I've never read before. I've read the first two, hadn't read the next three, so I've got 2 more to go. The One is a little predictable, has to be said, and a bit frustrating. I'm finding that as the series is going on, I'm getting more and more frustrated with America and Maxim as people, as a couple. If you don't know, this series is set in a dystopian land, like close to us, but not. Sorry, that was a blind being delivered for Eloise's room, which she seems to have slept through all that noise, so let's hope she doesn't. I can finish this video. And I've just run up and down the stairs, that's why I'm a little bit out of breath. Where were we? So the Selection is a dystopian type novel. It starts with a competition, essentially. A girl from each of the districts, I don't know if they're called districts in this book, but that's what I'm going to call them, are selected to come and compete for the prince's hand in marriage. There's also a lot of political stuff with rebels and things like that that is tied throughout all the books. So this is the third one. You can kind of guess what's going to happen in it. and I was just a bit upset about how predictable it was and about how volatile Maxon and America's relationship in this is. These are very old books and very old series. I think if I'd read them when I was a teenager I would have absolutely adored them, but as a in my 30s adult with a child and stuff like that, I'm just seeing them for the sort of childish nature they are, but they are young adults, so that's sort of what I've come to expect. I did think that we were going to go in a completely different direction with this book, and I thought, ooh, interesting, and then it didn't go there at all, which was disappointing. It could have been interesting if that's the direction that Kiera Cass took it, but she didn't. She went down the predictable route. It was a good end to the sort of trilogy, the competition part of it, because I think the other two follow a slightly different storyline. I mean, the next one's called The Air, so we can kind of guess where that one's going as well. And I've heard that those two are not as good as the trilogy, so if I'm getting frustrated now, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about those two, but we're still going to go with it. I've only got 2 left, so September, October. But it has to be said that these are super easy, super quick reads, and I am glad I'm reading the series. It's just a shame that the first one I really, really like, and then they've steadily gone downhill from there. So that's The One by Kiera Cass. So the last book that I read possibly has one of the best covers ever, and is a large reason why I wanted to read it, is Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. Isn't this just the best cover ever? Like, it's so clever and so pretty. So I saw this in bookshops, obviously drawn in by the cover every time, read the back of it so many times and thought it was interesting sounding, because we're looking at like resurrection men and grave robbing in the 1800s, and a woman that really wants to be a doctor but obviously isn't allowed because women aren't allowed to do anything in that kind of society. So at Christmas or my birthday, I can't remember, I put it on my list because I thought I'm just going to give it a shot, and then all year I've been sort of eyeing it up, going like, I really want to read that soon, I'm going to read that soon, and for some reason it's just gone by the wayside. So when I read my 3 that I'd already planned for the month, because I don't know if you've realised, but I planned 3 books, and then if I can get a 4th in, it tends to be a bit more of a mood read. When I had a space and a time, I was like, I'm going to read that one. And actually historical fiction so far this year has been doing me pretty well. My favourite book so far this year is Lessons in Chemistry, which is historical in-ish, newer historical but still historical. And The Christie Affair I really enjoyed. That's also sort of a historical look. My baby is moving. I think we're okay. So I was hopeful that this one would also be up there as a really good book. And I did find it really interesting, but I'm still not sure how I feel about it. Because in the front cover it says it's a love story, and yes, there is an element of it in the book, but it's not a big part of it. So that seems misleading. It also says it's a mystery, a murder mystery kind of thing, which again, it kind of is, but that doesn't really come into it until the last 70-100 pages, which was really interesting and I enjoyed it. But the first part of the book, and this is about 330 pages long, for a good 200 of those pages it was interesting. It was a good look at society, and as I said, at resurrection men and at women's rights and women's place in the society, but it wasn't really part of the story, so I'm really not sure how I feel about it. I really enjoyed reading it, and I would like to read the next one because I feel like I kind of have to now, but not quite what I thought it was going to be. It also took a very strange turn right at the end, which, again, not sure how I feel about it. If you've read this book, you'll probably know what I'm talking about in the sort of, how do I do it without giving you a spoiler? The villain at the very end, basically. So yeah, I did enjoy it. I do want to read the second one again, which has a brilliant cover. We're looking at a brain on that one rather than a heart. I did think it was a really interesting look at society in the we're in Edinburgh 1817 in this, and certainly women and what women were allowed to do. So we're following Hazel in this, and she is of nobility, and what she can and can't do, and how she goes against society's norms like massively with what she likes and what she wants to do. And then we're like a woman liking gall and blood, and she's desperate to become a doctor and stuff. So all of that kind of stuff was really interesting. There's obviously the look at the sort of medicine of the time, also very interesting. I've also got a weird fascination with resurrection men, resurrectionists, grave diggers, whatever you want to call them. I always seem to be kind of drawn to that part of history as well. So all of that I enjoyed, which I think is why the fact that there wasn't really much of a story, well, there was a story, but there wasn't much of a story to begin with, I still liked it. I'm passing this one on to my brother, the author of Death of a Dream-Pedlar. So I'm intrigued to know what he makes of this one as well. So yeah, I think this is probably my favourite read of the month, but I'm really torn on how I want to rate it and what I think of it. So that's Anatomy, a love story by Dana Schwartz with the most beautiful cover. So yeah, there are the 4 books that I read in August, plus a plug. Again, if you would like a copy, things in the description below. I promise this is the only month, other than the one where I read it, that I will do this. But September, I will be reading The Heir. I've also got a week away, so I've got a holiday, not a week, like 5 days. So something on my Kindle. I don't know how much chance I'm going to get to read, but it'll be something on my Kindle. So yeah, hopefully 4 books again, and if not more. I'm looking forward to it. So if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe. As I said, we are going away, so there'll be vlogs from the holiday. If you're into the book stuff, there's always a monthly one of those coming out. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!